With the new Animal Crossing New Horizons coming out, many new people have begun to look into the game and have been baffled by its simple concept. Why would someone be so excited to play this game exactly? Animal Crossing wouldn't appeal to some folk. The game is incredibly laid back with no real goals, and much of its gameplay involves doing tasks that you are trying to avoid doing in real life by playing video games in the first place. But the game's ability to give the players a sense of accomplishment with all that you can do and experience makes the game enormously rewarding and incredibly addictive. A mixture between Harvest Moon and The Sims, Animal Crossing arrives on GameCube with all the trimmings that usually make games flop. An unknown license, so-so graphics, mediocre sound, and game mechanics that sound more like chores than fun. And yet, this game certainly wasn't a flop. Play this game for a few days and you'll be hooked. And by the very design of the title, you'll tell your friends about it, because having a friend who plays Animal Crossing is what makes this game so great. It's an essential part of what the game is all about. Call it an online game without actually being online. It's a communication game, both inside and outside the actual gameplay experience. The concept for the game was enabled by the real-time clock system baked into the 64-disc drive. This short-lived but influential peripheral gave rise to Animal Crossing 24-hour approach. The 64-disc drive allowed Animal Forest to simulate the passage of time in-game, which provides the unique personal approach that the games are known for. Being able to write the passage of time to system memory afforded players the ability to engage in extremely wholesome activities, watching their plants grow, enjoying seasonal events, and fostering relationship with other villagers who inhabited the town. Animal Forest was renamed Animal Crossing after a few months later in December of 2001, arriving in North America in late 2002 and the European Union in late 2004, with Western holidays grafted into the mix thanks to an intense localization effort. With interface issues aside, Animal Crossing remains one of the most unique and entertaining titles of 2002. The US release in particular showed fans Nintendo's desire to constantly improve its games. Animal Crossing was a charming game for players of all ages that was proof that Nintendo hasn't run out of ideas. There was a mixture of many familiar gameplay styles that we've seen in other games before, but combined they really came together to create a very unique and original game. That's not to say that the game appeal was universal. Hardcore gamers who are used to playing video games for hours on end alone very quickly found out that Animal Crossing wasn't that kind of game. The sequel to the wildly popular first game arrived in 2005 and introduced a few new mechanics. Despite being mostly an incremental upgrade from the original, most important was the introduction of multiplayer. Wild World was the first to leverage the power of Wi-Fi to allow players to visit each other's homes and towns, with up to 3 friends being able to run wild in your little patch of the world. Technically 4 years after the release of the original, but only 1 or 2 ahead of its Western debut, Animal Crossing Wild World brought a social simulator to portable devices with a Nintendo DS entry. The Nintendo DS touchscreen made item management and world navigation a breeze. Typing letters and designing patterns were now just a stylus stroke away. Days and seasons pass in real time, so whether players want to decorate their homes, catch bugs or fish, collect brand new items like hats and sunglasses, or just chat with the wild and wacky villagers, there's always something to do. It was meant to be an original design in the franchise, yet for people who have already gone through months and months of building up their villages in the GameCube version, it really felt like a repeat for about 90% of the DS edition. The designers didn't do enough to make the game its own design, so it's not entirely attractive to people who've already experienced all of this before. The online component was something that the original GameCube design screamed for, and Nintendo mostly delivered for the DS version. It's still a bit on the limited side, with restrictions showing their faces every time you try to explore the design in the online environment, but for the most part Nintendo gave everything players were asking for when playing the GameCube version. In 2008, the Animal Crossing City Folk arrived, a bespoke entry for the Wii that felt a little out of place. City Folk developed upon Wild World's commitment to multiplayer by leveraging Nintendo's Wii Wi-Fi capabilities to allow players to visit and explore towns together. Unfortunately, none of the cute attempts at iteration in City Folk could pull people from the charm of Wild World. City Folk also used the Wii Speak accessory to allow for robust voice communication when playing together and supported text chat via a keyboard peripheral. It was all fairly ambitious for the time, especially the in-game auction house, which allows players to list and sell their items over the internet. However, when it came down to the actual game, the updates were even more incremental than Wild World and offered little in the way of new gameplay. There was some considerable whiplash to shift from the pocket-sized replayability of Wild World to the more sluggish Wii-based City Folk. Fans were used to being able to play the game on the move, so the switch back to console required some buy-in, and people just kept up with Nintendo DS instead of investing further in the Wii version. Animal Crossing City Folk was a good game, but was not a very good effort as a follow-up or sequel. Its foundation was definitely solid, but it doesn't pay enough respect to the millions of gamers who are involved in making the franchise a successful one. New Leaf finally delivered on the promise of a true Animal Crossing sequel. After 5 years, Animal Crossing came back in 2013 to supplement the release of Nintendo's portable new 3DS. New Leaf was a natural fit right out of the gate, a spiritual successor, if you will, to the original Wild World. Most importantly, it delivered on the promise of a true Animal Crossing sequel by adding tons of new features, including the ability to play a role in building new structures in your town to improve the life of your fellow villagers. This added responsibility and extra layers of systems in place could be seen as overwhelming by some, but New Leaf kept on the charm to make up for getting in the way of the serenity that underpins Animal Crossing's appeal. What sets New Leaf apart and makes it a cut above the rest is that the barriers laid down in the past games have largely been lifted, allowing for a sense of freedom, creation and ownership like never before. The multiplayer was far beyond anything the series has ever attempted previously. As expected, you can visit your friends' houses either online or locally, dropping off gifts if you're a good friend, or chopping down their trees and messing up their flowers if you're a big jerk. But that is just the start. You can also visit dream versions of other villages in the Dream Suite. This allows players to upload their town for friends and strangers alike to visit. New Leaf wasn't just a game, it was a whole new world, full of lovable characters and insurmountable charm. Every day felt different from the last, like you are living out a separate and wonderful life with your wacky villagers. There's always something to look forward to, something to be proud of or to remember fondly. New Leaf was a truly magical game, one that players invested hundreds of hours in the course of years. Due to its undying popularity, instead of working on a new game for the Wii U, Nintendo revitalized New Leaf with the welcome Amiibo update in 2016, which allowed players to use Amiibo cards and Nintendo characters to unlock exclusive furniture item based on games like Splatoon and The Legend of Zelda. It was a good reason to return to your town if you aren't still picking out weeds and delivering presents on a daily basis. The spin-off years came quickly after the runaway success of New Leaf and resulted in a few interesting side games for fans who wanted to engage with the characters they've bonded with in a different context. The first was Happy Home Designer, a 3DS side game that built upon a hallmark of the series, interior design. In Happy Home Designer, you step away from running the town and become an actual employee of Mr. Tom Nook, fulfilling build requests from villagers, attuning furniture sets to certain personality traits, and learning to please friends with your trained sense of style. It retained the empathic ethos of the series by focusing on helping others. Later in the same year came Amiibo Festival for the Wii U, a Mario Party spin-off which featured many beloved characters. Unfortunately, despite some clever mini-games like the strategic Desert Island Escape, it wasn't well received and ended up being a vehicle for Amiibo figures. Trying to turn Animal Crossing's charming gameplay into a competitive board game led to a detached and unsatisfactory experience. Where Mario Party succeeds by pumping out adrenaline and enabling healthy competition, Amiibo Festival was simply too charming and safe for its own good. Nintendo's pivot to mobile in the later half of the past decade also gave rise to Animal Crossing Pocket Camp in 2017, an attempt to port the game's charm to mobile. Whilst initially stoking excitement, opinions soured as players realized that it fell prey to some of the more predatory aspects of mobile gaming. The giant catalog of furniture was inspired, but the tasks needed to craft it were woefully mundane and required an incredible amount of patience. Then came the Leaf Tickets, a randomized means to obtain unique furniture which could be purchased with cold hard cash. This shone a blinding light on Tom Nook's capitalist ruse, and unfortunately the advent of microtransactions earned the game a bad reputation as it started to rely all too heavily on monetary investment from players. Turns out that Tom Nook's cutesy gift is charming until it's actively trying to rip pounds from your pocket. After 7 years of anguish, where die-hard players have clung desperately to the charm of New Leaf, their prayers have finally been answered and the serious evolution is finally here. Animal Crossing New Horizons has landed on March 20, 2020, the first meaningful entry in the series for the better part of a decade. With a robust crafting system, hundreds of quality of life improvements, and a developed character customization system, the game is riding high on the success of the Nintendo Switch, which, like the DS and 3DS before it, is hoping to prove itself as the perfect portable base for daily routine of playing a game like Animal Crossing, which hasn't fared so well on static console since the original GameCube release. In a first for the series, up to 8 players are able to explore and mine an island for resources at one time, and the game will autosave, which unfortunately relieves the beloved Mr. Resetti of his existential purpose. Although, according to the developers, this won't be the last we see of him in New Horizons, so we can expect the Manic Mole to pivot into a different career. With the most advanced toolset yet, New Horizons is planning to be the Super Smash Bros. Of Animal Crossing games. With a litany of systems and a cavalcade of charming characters, I think I speak for everyone when I say that it is an island getaway that everyone could all really use right now. The long-awaited 5th installment of the series, the first since New Leaf, has much of the same markings as the past Animal Animal Crossing games. Your number one raccoon boy, Tom Nook, and his two sons, Timmy and Tommy, are running some shady island destination getaway business. The resourceful Shin Tzu Isabel is unlockable, and tons of familiar and new Animal Crossing characters are waiting to be invited to your decked out island. Paired with online gameplay, there's a whole open world to escape to while you are stuck indoors.